Hey guys, welcome back to Olivia's Blooms. Today I'm going to be planting my first cool season crop, and it feels really weird to be planting cool season crops when it is so sweltering out here in late July, but now is the time, according to this seed packet, that I should be starting this. So our first average frost date is October 30th. And that should be just enough time for this to get up and grow into a nice big head of cauliflower before we get frost. Now this is frost hardy, but I'm not gonna risk it. I wanna try growing this fully before we actually start getting some of those frosts. And this is just amazing cauliflower from Baker Creek. Now, I've never grown cauliflower from seed before. I'm a little worried. We're gonna have some temperatures in the 90s here in the next few weeks, so direct seeding these, I'm not sure if they're gonna wanna germinate in this hot weather. So I'm gonna try it, and if I don't get germination on these, what I might do then is start another crop indoors in some soil blocks and let them get up and growing and then bring them out into the heat. So we'll see how this goes, but the first step for today is I'm going to clear out this bed here, and this is where I had my spring crop of beans, and I just planted here in another video some cowpeas to grow up this trellis, and you can see them starting to sprout and grow right there. But with the rest of the space here, I'm just gonna grow, I wanna say maybe 1 to 2 rows of the cauliflower because my kids do like this, some of my kids. Now, I have this kale here, and I mentioned in another video, kale this time of year doesn't taste amazing. So I'm gonna take these kale plants out, and I'll start another crop of them when it starts to get a little bit cooler. But while I'm, getting my first cool season crops going, I might as well just clear out the rest of this space so that it's available when I need it. All right, so let's get this kale out. Okay, so all I'm gonna do is cut the bottom of the kale plant with these, and again, leave the roots in the bed. And if I see any leaves that look like they're edible, and again, I'll eat this even if another bug had a little munch on it. Not everyone in my family will, but I will, so these won't go to waste. I'll have these in my salads this week. And then the really damaged rest of the plant I will just throw into the compost pile. And I'm gonna go along and do that with the rest of these plants. So now that the bed's cleared, I would normally amend it with some Biotone starter fertilizer and some compost. Now, I already did that in my earlier video where I planted these cowpeas. I just went ahead and did the whole bed, so thank you, Past Me, for making my job today easier. And I do want to mention, I talked a couple times about leaving plant roots in the ground. If a plant is really disease or insect ravaged, it's probably safer to pull the whole thing out. So I only keep plants in the ground if they were healthy and there were no problems. A little bit of powdery mildew I don't worry too much about just because we have so much of that in our area. If it's got a little powdery mildew at the end of its life, I'll still leave it in the ground, but anything worse than that, and I'll pull the whole plant out just to be safe. Okay, so the first step before I plant the seeds is I'm gonna moisten the soil with my hose. you want to moisten the soil because, one, for the seeds to germinate, you want them to stay moist the entire time until they're up and going. So making sure that soil is nice and moist really helps. But also, especially with smaller seeds, I'm not too worried about it with these cauliflower seeds today, but if you moisten the soil after you plant them, sometimes you can blow away those little seeds. These I'm not too worried, and I'll probably add a little bit of water after I get them in the grounds. But so for this variety of cauliflower, it says to plant 1/4 to 1/2 inch deep and 18 to 20 inches apart. And this bed is 4 feet wide. So I think what I'm gonna do is, I think I'm gonna plant 1 row of 3 right here. And then I'll put 1 here and 1 on the other side of this pepper. And that should give these plenty of space. And I think 5 cauliflower heads will be plenty. Here's what the seeds look like, if you can see that. And I'm going to plant 2 per hole, just to make sure I get a cauliflower in each hole. And I can always thin them, which just means pull them out if I get 2 that germinate. So let's do 1 right about here. Pop 2 seeds in. Do 1 right in the middle here. And I'm gonna go, you can see my drip tubing right here. I'm gonna try and go right next to the drip tubing. That helps ensure that these stay moist. But again, I'll probably come out here and water them at least once a day, just to make sure they stay nice and moist while they are germinating, especially in this 90-degree heat. Put 1 right here. Another 1 over here. You see these cabbage moths flying around? That's definitely going to be a problem. They're here because they've been enjoying my Brussels sprouts. And I'm really going to need to come out here and probably manually get rid of their babies, which are caterpillars that eat holes through a lot of cruciferous vegetables in the Brassica family, like cauliflower. All right, so those are all planted. It's that simple, and I'll update you as these hopefully, fingers crossed, germinate. And if they don't, then we'll be planting these in soil blocks inside. Not a bad little late summer kale harvest there. That'll be good in salads all this week with some fresh tomatoes and some of that basil vinaigrette that I made. Okay, the last chore I'm gonna do is some real quick garden cleanup. Starting to get a little hot, and I'm starting to get hungry for some lunch. So this is the Dara that I mentioned. I grew, I actually started it last fall, and I grew it for spring filler flowers, and I didn't love it. It was okay, but it's pretty much done now, and I'm gonna clean this out, and I'm gonna just take my snips and cut at the base and leave the roots in the ground. I like to do that sort of part of like the no dig method, and just not disturb the ecosystem that's under the soil there, and leave that organic matter in there to slowly break down over time. And that's how I've done most of my garden cleanup and had really good results. So let me grab my snips, and I'm gonna use some bigger snips. These are just regular old pruners. They don't work well, they're not very good quality, but they're what I have, so they do the job. And I'm just gonna cut this to base here. And it helps if you don't cut the metal stakes that are in your drip system right below, because you can't cut through metal. So just a helpful tip there. Just tried to do that and it didn't work out so well. Now if something's really thick at the base, sometimes I'll just nick it and then bend it. You can see how thick this was. And again, these are not very sharp, good pruners. And this is just going to clear out some more space for fall crops and give the snapdragons that are still going in this garden some more airflow and some more sunshine. All right, so here's that bed cleaned out, and that was some good work today. Now we have some more space here and where the onions were and where the whole potato bed to get some crops ready for fall. Thanks for doing chores with me today, guys. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. I've got my hose here. Just gonna moisten it. Oh, probably should turn the hose on before I moisten the soil. Let's go do that. Okay. And